Welcome to the Aspire podcast, the monthly podcast from the guys at Cavendish. My name is Simon Leadbetter. I'm delighted to be joined by David.
Hello, Simon.
And Nicola.
Hello, Simon.
Excellent stuff. So we've got a few topics to talk about today. Some of it time sensitive, so we'll timestamp this and you'll know when it goes out and events, dear boy, are happening around us. But we're about a week away from potentially having a new Prime Minister.
We are indeed.
Now, there's a lot of talk at the moment, and actually he was very passionate about this in the run-up to actually he's getting the being appointed as Prime Minister. Andy Burnham was really into land value tax, which has become a property tax, which has become the fairer share model. Are you able to describe what the fairer share model is?
Yeah, so I've got the figures in front of me. So this actually replaces council tax, we believe.
And stamp duty.
And stamp duty as well. And instead, you'll pay. So I've got the figure for your own residence, which is, so basically you pay 0.48% of your home's value, basically, per year.
And then you're going to pay 0.96% of a second property, empty property, or a foreign-owned property.
Yeah.
So actually what's interesting about this is it's a common model in the USA, Canada, Netherlands, Denmark, France and Spain. It's only really us, Australia and Germany who have a big stamp duty basis. From both of your perspectives, what are the issues with stamp duty?
Stamp duty, call a spade a spade. It can be a blocker to transactions.
Yeah.
I think I think if we turn the question around, what we did an event, didn't we, a few weeks ago, and we asked a panel of experts, conveyancers, mortgage brokers, estate agents, and we all said, what's one thing you would change with the current system? And I think every single person on the panel said, abolish stamp duty. So I think most people would agree that if stamp duty didn't exist, we'd have more transactions and the property market would be more fluid.
So we know it's I know you get a discounted rate, but it's a barrier for someone entering the property market.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a barrier for someone moving out of a family home if they're empty nesters into a smaller property. But when people have run the analysis, it's fair to say that 2/3 of people in Britain will be better off.
Yeah, they will be.
But a third of people are going to be worse off. And the third is going to be, and this affects your world as well, Nicola, is people who live in more valuable properties, they're going to be hurt more.
Yeah.
But also people who've got multiple properties.
Landlords, yeah.
So, Nicola, don't you think landlords have been hammered enough?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just...
So, in the scheme of things, would you rather have what is ostensibly a fairer tax with the fairer share property tax, or retain stamp duty?
I think the new suggestion would be the best way forward.
Okay, fair enough. And, looking at the data again, it looks like we're probably 4 or 5 years away from actually happening.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? So I saw a really interesting infographic on LinkedIn the other day, and it was a map of the UK, and it showed the areas that would be affected, basically where people would be paying less than they are currently, because obviously it replaces council tax, versus the people that would be paying more. And obviously, as you go further down south, people are paying a lot more. And something I don't think I've seen anyone talk about yet, but I sort of thought about this the other day, is that actually what this really affects is perhaps, someone that's lived in a property, for a long time, and, kids have left, and, it's a big old property, but they don't want to move because they don't want to pay stamp duty, and this will force them to move, because suddenly now, if it's a property, let's say it's worth £2 million, and now suddenly you've got this, this tax that is substantially higher than what you would have paid stamp duty, because stamp duty was originally valued in 1991. So they might be paying £300 a month stamp duty, but actually when this tax comes in, they might be paying double or even triple that because of the value of their home. So actually it might encourage / force those people to move, and therefore that will have an effect on the property market, won't it?
And we were talking about this before we actually started recording, is, the problem with stamp duty, it's a cliff edge. changing the tax system
Cliff edge. That's the right term.
could
yeah.
also be a cliff edge. And in reality, they're going to have to taper this in some ways, aren't they? I know there was one proposal
Yeah.
of almost like a 10-year transition because it's such a dramatic change to the way tax works.
Yeah, because it would stop. I mean, if they said, as of 2028, this is coming in, the stamp duty will be no longer, there'll be so many people that would delay plans to move, and that would completely stop. That would cause transaction levels to plummet, surely.
So, I mean, for those who want to read about it, there's so much information out there, some brilliant work that's being done. But just bear in mind, whatever the headlines are screaming at you, there is 3 years left of this parliament, this government. It'll take probably 2 or 3 years for it to pass through Parliament.
Yeah.
So it's very likely that the law won't be in place until the end of the Parliament. There will then be a general election, and then there's probably 4 to 5 to 10-year transition towards it. So however you feel about it, some of the more shocking headlines, this isn't going to happen anytime soon. Although there is a conversation about some sort of transitional thing, which would be just to uprate the valuations from 1991 to more current values. So again, and this will affect a very small number of people in the whole.
Yes, yeah. See, again, one of the first reactions I read was, well, how many homes are there in the UK?
28.6 million.
Okay, there we go. How are they going to value all those homes? I mean, will it be based on an algorithm? I mean, you would think now, 10 years ago, the idea of that would be crazy, wouldn't it? They would have expected surveyors to go around and value all these homes. But now, I guess, there's probably an element of that that'll be done by AI.
I think there's going to have to be a technological solution because we're valuing a couple of million properties a year in the current system, and it's 14 times that.
Yeah.
So it's an army of valuations that will need to be done. So it's going to have to be a technological solution.
Yeah.
I'm sure Palantir or someone else is on a very big contract to make that happen. So let's move to some specific markets. We've got a tale of two cities with the markets at the moment. Wales is doing better than England, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But specifically, and this is over to you, Nicola, lettings is doing really well. Have you booked your trip to Brazil or whatever as a result of all the fantastic commission that's being earned on the excellent work you're doing to an ever-growing number of landlords and tenants?
Booked a really good holiday, yeah. No, it's been really busy the past few weeks. I think we've seen a good, strong demand in rental properties, and there's good activity on both sides. Landlords coming to the market and then tenants renting the properties as well. So, yeah, it's looking good at the moment.
But hold on. It was the end of the world recently.
Yeah, it was.
We've had changes to the Welsh landlord laws. We've had changes to the English rental laws. All landlords have left the market, haven't they? There's no one left to do the job.
Yeah, that's what they'd like you to believe, isn't it? But in the last sort of 6 weeks since the transition into Renters' Rights Act, obviously we spent a lot of time preparing for how we're going to work in that new world. And now we're obviously doing it in real time, seeing the market adapt in line with how the changes have come in.
And you brilliantly did an event before it came out, and
Yeah.
I think you've got another event coming up for landlords.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's later in the year for Welsh landlords in October.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So watch out for Cavendish announcements about, as I know because I've been at them, Cavendish does lots of events to explain what's going on with the market, and specifically if there's big changes coming. So do watch out for those events. They're generally free.
Absolutely, yeah. For the next one, off the top of my head, I think it's the 26th of October. It's the Monday, basically. So it might be the 26th, might be the 25th.
It's the 26th.
It's 26th, yeah. So it's 26th of October at Fiercely Clwyd, and it's a Welsh landlord special. So it's all about the Welsh legislation. No renters' rights there.
As my mum's maiden name is Jones, I feel I should come.
You're more than welcome.
So if we go to the other side of the kind of this tale of two cities, lettings is doing well. We're not seeing the landlords are leaving, but it's not the exceptional exodus that we thought.
No.
Sales is struggling. The property market is showing not healthy signs, or put that another way, unhealthy signs, across not only the number of instructions coming to market, but also the valuations. And while, again, Wales is doing better than Chester, or the Northwest, it's not pretty along. I mean, this is a disaster for the sales market, isn't it, David?
No. I think. I mean, it's very easy to get carried away with the data. I think, and obviously, data. You can. It's not the end of the world. But basically, data is subjective, and I think what we're seeing is that the headline was property prices have dipped in Chester, as in the value of properties coming to the market in Chester has gone down, which is correct, and then. But if we delve into that, it's the mix of property that's coming on the market. So last year, more expensive properties were coming on the market. This year, there's lower price properties coming on the market, which then heavily weights that average. And I think as well, it's very, very easy to get caught up in the headlines. And, I would take the national headlines with a pinch of salt. If you're selling your home in Hull, in Chester, then, the market on your road will be very different to the road behind yours. To paraphrase Kate Fortner, as we've done a few times on this podcast, there is no property market. There is a market for a property. And the only way to find out, the market for your property is to speak to an expert. And literally you can narrow the market down to a postcode. You can narrow it down to the side of a street. It'd be completely different to the street next door to you.
And your team toured Christy
and Christy, yeah.
Talked about, you do a lot of work with off-market properties.
Yeah.
So in reality, if you speak to an agent such as Cavendish, they'll have active buyers looking for exactly your property. So regardless of what's going on with the property market,
yeah, definitely,
there will potentially in their database be a buyer looking for exactly what you've got, potentially turn it into a rental property,
100%,
or to flip it.
Yeah, because nationally, about 10% of properties that are sold in the UK every year aren't listed on a portal. So Rightmove, Zoopla are on the market. They are sold, inverted commas, off market or off portal, whatever. And the best thing for that would be to speak to an agent like us. We've got active buyers at the moment who, they've exhausted Rightmove already. They are still looking for that particular property.
And Nicola, if say I need to move because my job's taking me, my job starts or the kids' education starts, in the lettings world, do you think if you need to move, it's a short-term but effective strategy to rent for yourself and let out your existing property?
Yeah, definitely. I think then you can move quickly, as quickly as you need to for whatever your needs are, and then you can think about what you want to do with your property in the meantime.
And if you can make the rent you pay be matched by the rent you're earning, and the property's still moving with the property price, you're not losing out.
That's it, yeah.
And would you accept quite a short-term let? So let's say I'm expecting to move and be able to have found the property within 6 months. So therefore, with the new rules, could I make it that it is going to be a specific fixed term let?
No, you can't have, not in England, you cannot have fixed term. So if you needed to rent short term, then that option is there for you, because you can move in and then the notice period would be 2 months notice. So you could effectively leave after 3 months if you moved to the area and found a property straight away. And how long does it take for a sale to go through? 4 months, maybe 5 months?
Yeah, 4 or 5 months.
You've got that flexibility
and
there.
that's the other thing to absolutely consider with the length of time with actually once you make an offer to actually complete, you're going to be in that rental property for longer than
you initially thought anyway. Yeah.
So don't do
definitely.
an Airbnb,
No.
rent properly,
Yeah.
but explain to the landlord your situation, who maybe will have properties they want where there's a similar situation where someone wants to move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
definitely.
And there's always couches in the last minute if things don't quite line up.
Couches. Sofa
But
surfing.
let's hopefully not go into sofa surfing. So we've talked about one timely thing, which is a new Prime Minister on the doorstep. Obviously, the market, again, a tale of two cities. But as we consistently say, both lettings and sales, there is no property market. There's a market for properties. So speak to the experts. And actually having a sales and lettings agent gives you the best possibility of exploring all options, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
And it's fair to say there's a book on both subjects, maybe, David?
There is, yeah. So available on Amazon. We'll put the links in the show notes. There is a book called the Landlords Playbook for landlords, funnily enough, and then there's also a book called the Sellers Playbook, which is for sellers.
And having read both of them in the industry for 10 years, and actually I know some really experienced estate agents and business professionals that actually it's a really practical. You're almost giving away the secrets.
Mm.
Yeah, I think. Yes, you wrote the foreword.
I did
very kindly for the Sellers Playbook, and something you said in the foreword that it was very nice of you. You said that there's a lot of books on how to sell your house, but not many books are. I wasn't sort of scared to almost criticize the industry and actually call out bad practice, because there's no point sugarcoating it. There is a way of doing things that really doesn't work, and I really faced into friction with that and really addressed that in that book, I feel.
Brilliant. So available at all good bookshops, mainly Amazon.
Yeah, yeah,
Excellent.
indeed. Amazon.
And actually, if you deal with these guys, I'm sure they'll give you a copy anyway, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, anyone who's listening to this, if you haven't got a copy of the Landlord's Playbook or the Seller's Playbook, message us. Find any way to message us. DM us. Find me on LinkedIn if you want. David Adams on LinkedIn. Message me. I'll send you a copy for free. No questions asked.
Now, a little bird tells me there might be a football thing going on at the moment.
Yeah. So yeah, but bearing in mind we're recording this on Monday the 13th
yeah.
of July. So we've just beaten Norway on Saturday, and we're playing Argentina on Wednesday this week in 2 days' time.
Is it too soon to say it's coming home?
Well,
Or maybe it's late by the time you're watching this.
Or maybe we're drowning our sorrows. And
For our Welsh listeners,
commiserating.
this isn't necessarily what you want to hear.
It's not rugby. So.
But
Yeah,
it's
unfortunately.
and for me, the right-shaped ball is rugby ball. I mean, there's a silly ball game called football. But anyway, sorry to all the football lovers. Right, so there's football happening. There's going to be a lot of talk in the property industry. Do you believe that if England or when England wins the World Cup, it affects the property markets?
Good question. And my view, and this is a holistic opinion, I think, rather than looking at data and stats, because I'm sure you could crunch the data to when. But let's be honest.
Have.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. And obviously, the last time we won the World Cup was 60 years ago, wasn't it? 60 years ago? Yeah,
66.
60 years ago, 66. Yes, wouldn't that be nice? But obviously, we've won other major sporting events, and we've had the Olympics, etc., haven't we?
And just so we are talking about men's. Women have been doing great for a long time.
Yeah. By the way, yeah, of course. And I think that when England, when the UK, Wales, Scotland, etc., when we win something, or when something big's happening to do with sport, I think that affects people's moods. And I think people are generally happier in the summer. I think because they get good bit of sunlight, vitamin D. We're recording this in the middle of the heat wave at the moment, so I don't know if people are liking the sun or not at the moment. Maybe
I'm
not.
loving it.
I think generally people feel happier, more positive, and that does have an effect on people's decisions they're making. So actually, does it make them buy a house? I don't know, but actually, I think people are in a better frame of mind and might actually go, do you know what? Let's go ahead with that plan and let's put a house on the market and buy that dream home. I don't know. It's a very holistic opinion in that. Have I avoided the question? Probably.
So, I mean, having crunched the data and had a look at it,
Here's the real answer.
there is no robust statistical evidence that England winning any major tournament affects house prices.
No.
That said, and this is the caveat we have to put to this, is England hasn't won a World Cup since 1966.
Yeah.
So anyone who says they know
There's a lot changed since
has
then.
no idea,
No.
because we haven't done this for 60 years. And if we do this, who knows what will actually happen. What I did find interesting in the data, and this, we'll draw it to a close after this, is there was a huge amount of evidence by the London School of Economics and a whole bunch of others that actually, whenever there is an investment in football amenities, be that the village football ground all the way up to a brand new stadium, the net impact on house prices is really positive. Over a 10-year window, any investment in football amenities in a community has a significant positive effect on house prices.
Which, on our doorstep, I'd say that's happened with Wrexham and Ryan Reynolds buying Wrexham. We've seen Wrexham house prices go up. You haven't got the data to quote anything here, but yeah, that's had a massive effect. So all we need now is Brad Pitt to buy Chester FC. We'll be laughing, won't we?
And theoretically, the spike in interest, there's almost like a waterfall effect of the spike in interest that football will gain as a result of how well England does, will likely increase to a greater investment in grassroots football.
Yeah, I agree.
So while you can't directly correlate England's inevitable win in the World Cup with house prices, the knock-on effect of the positivity of people's support for football and investment in football more generally should theoretically have a positive effect on house prices.
Yeah, and I would say, just to flip this as well, I think, there's, to use a phrase that you use quite a lot, I think, we're in a perma-crisis situation, aren't we? And I think it's become culture, it's become common perhaps for agents, not just estate agents, but businesses to blame things like, like the football for low activity. So, for example, sorry we haven't sold your house, the World Cup's on, it's Wimbledon, there's a war on, et cetera, et cetera. COVID, the base rate's gone up. There's always something. And I think we've now just become accustomed to this new world where there's always something going on. And I just feel like people are just getting on with their plans because we're kind of conditioned to this now. So actually, you make your own market, and if you're listening to this perhaps and your estate agent has said the market's dead because the football's on, I don't believe that.
And as I've heard multiple times from multiple genuine data and industry experts, is the best time to be a landlord and the best time to be a home seller is now. Because if you need to be it or you want to be it, move early with property. Always move early with
Absolutely, yeah. Because it's you don't want to time the market. It's time in the market. Don't wait to buy a property. Buy a property and wait. It's the best time. If you need to move, the best time to put your house on the market is when you need to move. So it's now. And the thing is, it's taking on average just over 200 days from putting a property on the market to selling. That's the national average, by the way. It doesn't have to be that long. So people putting the house on the market now, we're in July, statistically, we're not going to move till February. Is that right? Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, as I always say every single time we do this, is if you have any questions you'd like me to ask, please post them in the comments below or drop a note to the guys at Cavendish. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
And I'll see you in August when we might be even hotter.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yay.
Yeah.
And also, World Cup winners.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Come on, England. Yay.